Houses are better than apartments. I don't believe it to be a matter of opinion. Houses make a much better choice to live in and or raise a family. I grew up in both apartments and houses. My next purchase will definitely be a house, and that decision is based on the following analysis. I know people don't think of it this way, but when you live in an apartment you actually live with a lot of different people. When I was in 5th grade, my mom and I up and left Michigan. We ended up living with my cousin in Silver Spring, Maryland. She had a 2-bedroom apartment in the hood and allowed us to move in. I just remember strange people everywhere, who spoke many different languages. Most of them were from different cultures and or countries, but they all had the same skin color as mine. Being from Flint, I had never seen this before in my life. They were from Jamaica, Haiti and the Dominican Republic. They spoke broken English, French and Spanish. These were very strange sights and sounds to my young eyes and ears. I had a similar experience as an adult in New York. This time I became friends with these strangers who looked like me. In Maryland, I didn't understand why we lived with strangers. I didn't want to live with anybody who wasn't in my family, let alone unfamiliar people. Although in different apartments, it still felt like I was living with strangers. If I can help it, I will not live in apartments any longer than I have to. Apartments are cheaper, but houses are worth the extra money. In an apartment you have to pay rent every month or else you're back out on the street. Fortunately, there are a lot of apartments for rent, so you might be able to find a new one. In a house you can buy it for cash or pay a monthly mortgage. In either case you make out better because you're building your equity up and working your way toward complete ownership of the property. Renters do not own the place that they live in. I wouldn't want to have my well-being in someone else's hands. I had a landlord in Tacoma Park, Maryland, who asked me to leave once my lease ended. Guess what? Legally he had a right to do so. I was upset enough to contact the state and complain to the Landlord-Tenant Association, who informed me that I had to move out. That's when I realized that renters get the short end of the stick. You can have the luxury of ownership and the convenience of an apartment by purchasing a condo. When I lived on the East Coast, that was my plan. But in the end I realized coming home to Flint was my best option. No matter what you do, the fact is that you may have to pay monthly, whether it's a mortgage or rent, and condos have maintenance fees attached. For people without high-paying jobs, all they can afford is apartments, which are considerably less expensive. When you are a homeowner, upkeep and maintenance is a must, or you won't have your place to live very long. People in apartments don't have yard work and they are not responsible for the building they live in. A homeowner is constantly monitoring his or her home for anything that needs to be groomed, repaired or replaced. My father has a house in Flint. It seems he cuts the grass when it doesn't need it. He would say he's nipping it in the bud, fixing the problem before it becomes a bigger problem. Both renters and homeowners feel the stress of keeping a roof over their heads. For the owners, the stress is financial, but renters may not have a place to stay next year if they don't pay the rent, or if the landlord wants to move in his niece. After all, he does own the place. Bills are another big part of having a place to stay. A renter can, depending on the rental agreement, have all utilities included. No such luck for a homeowner. They must pay for their modern conveniences individually. This is why one must have a good job in order to pay the bills. Both apartments and houses can provide shelter for people. They can both be decorated in the fashion that the occupants desire. I would say a homeowner's biggest worry is dropping property values. But watch out, renters, because there are a lot of slumlords out there. The main reason I prefer houses to apartments is that they increase your quality of life. Your children have a yard to play in without strangers offering them candy or asking for their names. I learned a while ago that the name of the game is stability. Houses are often bigger than apartments as well, so there is plenty of room for storage. Apartments may or may not have storage, or just finding a place to be alone and think. They both have similar designs, including kitchens, baths, living and bedrooms. Houses may have a few more. Both have privacy, houses more so than apartments, and if properly furnished, both are very comfortable. In New Jersey, I learned that if you don't have a decent place to park, there is no point to having a car. Me and my wife received over 15 parking tickets in 1 year, at $42 apiece, because our apartment didn't come with a parking spot. In a house, you simply would not have that problem. I don't know about you, but when I get my mail, I don't want to have to walk down a cold staircase in a stinky hallway with kids that aren't my own running around. Apartments are loud but houses are only as noisy as you want them to be. They both have neighbors. I prefer not to be in such close quarters with my neighbors for privacy and security reasons. When you live in a house, depending on the activities of the occupants, they are fairly safe because, for the most part, you get to pick and choose who comes on your property or in your house. Not to mention houses are an investment that you can't see a return on, making purchasing a house a smarter way to go. Houses make a much better choice to live in and/or raise a family. I personally am looking forward to having the sense of pride I see in my father's eyes when he deals with the world, knowing he has a home that he owns and nobody can tell him anything about how to live or where to live. Owning a home is more financially lucrative than renting. I once heard someone say renting is like throwing your money down the drain, and I'm inclined to agree. I know both lifestyles very well, and no question about it, my next purchase will be a house. Also, please remember, if you live in an apartment and your neighbors have bugs, that means that you also have bugs. Thank you for watching, and please, like and subscribe.